Kristiansand is a seaside resort on the Norwegian Riviera. Kristiansund is a harbour town deep in the western fjords. Just one letter and over 1,000 kilometres of scenery separate them as I travel around the coast from Sund2Sand over land. I've completed the penultimate leg of my journey from Kristiansund to Kristiansand and have arrived in Norway's oil capital. But Stavanger is no Dallas. Today, the third largest city in Norway and home to the oil and gas industry, up into the petrochemicals boom of the 1970s, the city of Stavanger was principally a town of fishing and shipping, in particular canning. In the 1950s, the town had over 50 canneries and was even called Norway's canned capital. The last factory closed in 2002, but by then the economy of the city had changed beyond all recognition, with more than half of all jobs in the city linked to the oil industry. The earliest traces of settlement in Stavanger are similar to those of Kristiansund. With the ice sheets retreating around 10,000 years ago, the fjords became a welcome place to settle, ice-free and abundant in seafood. The area would already have been a military and economic centre around the 9th century, as the Hafrsfjord, which sits just 3 kilometres southwest of the very centre of Stavanger, was the scene of the Battle of Hafrsfjord, which saw Harald Fairhaired defeat the other Viking kings of the region to become the first king of Norway. The city was established in 1125, but likely had been growing for many years before that. Construction on the city's cathedral started around 1100 and was completed in 1125, which the city of Stavanger now counts as its official year of founding. The city had been an important religious centre, but with the Protestant Reformation in 1536, that role declined. Due to its general reliance on the fishing industry, the city's history is marked by almost constant swings between economic booms and recessions. By the early 1960s, the city population appeared to have reached a peak at around 50,000 and was already starting to decline, when the oil boom reversed the city's fortunes. By 2025, the population had passed the 150,000 mark, with around 10% of that population being made up of immigrants linked to the oil industry, primarily Poles, Brits and Turks. Unlike its Texan cousin, the city of Stavanger is still predominantly a low-rise, traditional wooden building city, with buildings lining the quayside as they wrap around the waters of the harbours, nestled below Valberg, the hill that defines the centre of the city. The hill is topped by the Valbergtårnet, or Valberg Tower, built between 1850 and 1853, replacing an earlier wooden tower, as a lookout tower for the city's watchmen, vital in a city made up of so many wooden buildings. Fire alarm systems eventually made the role of a watchman redundant, but it wasn't until 1922 that the last watchman retired. 10 years after opening, the tower also gained a new role, as a lighthouse was installed within it. Since then, it's also served as a storm signal tower, maritime school, and the city's tourist office. Whilst the Valberg may look like a solid lump of rock in the heart of the city, it hides within itself a secret. Today, the hill is pretty much hollow, having been burrowed out to create a car park on multiple levels, including a lift that can get from harbour side to the top of the hill without all the effort of climbing. But what are those very heavy doors and the very wide steps down? Along with being a car park, the space can also double up as a shelter in the event of an emergency, with space for 5,430 people. The double-width stairwells allow for a fast flow of people into the top of the structure and down into the deeper levels of the bunker. The stairwell is also home to one of 23 Iron Men that form part of Broken Column, an art project by Anthony Gormley that saw 23 statues, all casts of the artist's body, dotted around the city from the top of the city's art museum to one placed partially submerged in a reef outside the harbour. The wide staircase leads you down to the lowest level of the car park, where many more heavy doors can seal the space off from the outside world, no matter what's going on. Though it's then only a short walk through the car park itself and out into the sunlight of the roads at the base of the hill. From here, you're back into the area behind the waterfront buildings and into a mix of modern and historic buildings, including many former warehouses, which today have been adapted into bars, restaurants and nightclubs. From the centre of Stavanger, it's a short ride on the bus out to perhaps the most consequential fjord in all of Norway, the Hafrsfjord. Today, this is a peaceful, if you ignore the fact that Stavanger Airport is at the foot of the fjord, and beautiful stretch of water with a pleasant just under 5 kilometre walk that takes you around the water's edge from Gamle Stavanger to the remains of an Iron Age grave. The 9 kilometre long fjord has an entrance directly from the North Sea, and close to here is its narrowest point at around 225 metres wide. From there, the fjord runs mostly north-south, expanding out at Gamle Stavanger to a point where it's nearly 5 kilometres at its widest point. The inner part of the fjord is also the deepest, though given it only gets down to 60 metres, it's not going to win any awards for the deepest fjord in the country. Dotted along the coast are lots of small beaches. Slightly further along is the main reason this pleasant walk exists, with the Håhammaren Bridge, a curving bridge that juts out from the rocks to bypass a small cliff that previously split the path in two and required either a long inland detour or climbing up and over the cliff. The bridge opened in 2016, completing the path running around the full length of the Stavanger side of the fjord. The path occasionally steps a few metres back from the water's edge as it passes a number of small harbours and mooring points along the coastline of the fjord. Before reaching the northeastern corner of the fjord at Madla Beach, which has a statue dedicated to the fishermen's wives and the important role they played in the primary industries of the city. From here, you also get the first view of the sculpture Sverd, or Swords in the Rock. This was created in 1983 as a monument for the Battle of Hafrsfjord. Taking place in some point between 872 and 900, but for celebrating purposes the year 872 has been settled upon by Norway as a founding date of the nation, the battle pitted Harald Fairhaired, who had styled himself as the first king of Norway, against fellow Viking kings Erik of Hordaland and Kjotfredrich from the southwestern parts of Norway. His crushing defeat of the other kings of the battle paved the way for Harald to consolidate his power, subdue the country, and collect taxes from a large portion of it. The monument is made up of 3 gigantic bronze swords set into the rocks of the shore of the fjord. The tallest of the swords, at around 10 metres high, represents Harald, with the 2 slightly smaller swords representing his defeated foes. Along with commemorating the battle, the monument is also a representation of peace, since the swords are planted into solid rock so they may never be removed. The monument was designed by sculptor Fritz Røhr and was unveiled by King Olaf V in 1983, the 1111th anniversary of the battle. Continuing on around the fjord from Sverd, the path now turns to the southeast, and at this point, walking along the edge of the fjord, you're looking across the widest part of the water. Due to the side of the fjord, it contains a number of small islands, which are visible from the coast here. The path around the coast of the fjord comes to an end at the Grannesbukta Nature Reserve, which is located around and beyond the remains of a former Iron Age burial mound, which can just about be made out in the overgrowth. The nature reserve was created in 1996 to preserve a marine wetland area. From the rear of the burial mound, there are views out across the nature reserve and the fjord. With my time in Stavanger at an end, it's time to take the final leg of a journey down to the southern tip of Norway and the city of Kristiansand. And in a change to all the previous legs of this journey, this time I'm letting the train take the strain as I travel along the Sørlandet line. This 545km long railway line runs from Stavanger to Oslo, though I'm only taking it for the 233km to Kristiansand. With only the evening in Kristiansand, I head south of the city centre, which I'd explored when I was here in 2023, to the island of Odderøya, directly to the south of the city centre and connected to it by 4 different bridges. This 0.7 square kilometre island creates a natural division between the eastern and western parts of the port of Kristiansand, with, today, the western port home to the ferries to Denmark and cargo, and the eastern port home to the yachts and pleasure craft. Today, the island is a popular location to go walking and hiking, with many trails around and across the island, lots of them leading to panoramic viewpoints over the city or surrounding waters. But it's not always been that way. Due to the importance of the island overlooking the harbour, there was some form of military presence on the island from at least 1667 until 1999, with the island often closed to civilians. The island held the lazaretto, or quarantine station, the largest in northern Europe, from 1804 to 1914. When it opened, it was the sole quarantine station for the whole of Denmark, Norway and Holstein. The island, naturally, was an important fortification point for the Nazis following their invasion of the previously neutral Norway in April 1940, and from that point until the 23rd of June 1992, the island was off limits to the public. Due to the importance of protecting the harbour, there had been fortifications on the top of Odderøya since the 17th century, but the arrival of the Nazis saw those fortifications modernised, expanded and built into the Atlantic wall that's followed me all the way down the coast. After the capitulation and surrender of the Nazis in 1945, the fortifications passed into the control of the Norwegian armed forces, with the Coastal Artillery Shooting School moving from Oslo to Odderøya in 1953 and headquartered here until 1997. The fort had a standing emergency force always on standby up until 1959, at which point they were only manned during rehearsal exercises. In its latter years, the fort was used more for boot camp and training purposes, being home to the conscription administration for southern Norway for a number of years. With the armed forces moved out and the island handed back to the city, the fortifications have slowly started to be consumed by nature, but you can still wander around most of the gun emplacements and bunkers on the island, with only a small number in such a poor state of repair they've had to be fenced off, as they're close to collapse. A short walk on from the main fortifications on the top of the island and down a pretty steep path, you reach the Odderøya Fort, or Odderøya Lighthouse, which protects the entrance to the western harbour. The modern automatic light was installed and put into operation in 1984, replacing the 1874 built lighthouse with cottage that still stands next to it. The lighthouse also marks not just the end of the island, but the end of my journey from Kristiansund to Kristiansand.